as we head towards our second game. RNG versus LNG. Ban's already underway. And that's a cheeky little Fiora ban, which leaves the Yuumi open for RNG.
Poppy banned away though, so obviously LNG starting to give a bit more respect towards Wei. Will still give over the Zeri. Wukong as well gone towards Tarzan, and it definitely feels with that Poppy now off the board, you're not going to have as good of an answer here. So I'm curious to see if they just go back towards the Trundle like that or something like that for Wei.
Yeah, that's what I'd expect. RNG haven't really been one of the teams to really dip down.
Why is Wei got so
he
many
got
stickers
paper
on
on his
him?
forehead.
He has it all over his arms as well. I don't know what's going on.
Maybe he's preparing for the insane Lee Sin game.
Maybe it's one of those temporary tattoos.
The gel packs.
I do expect the Trundle to come through. Sivir, of course, going to be the lock-in for the side of RNG. And it seems like, unless RNG pulls some kind of curveball in terms of like hiring that as your priority and wanting to go back to that we should just have like a stock and standard Trundle trade-off, and then on the opposing side, right, the Lulu to come out.
The only thing I could think of is if you want to go for something like a Xin Zhao, maybe you're thinking as well and going, hey, look, we've got the Yuumi, let's go towards a fighter and think we can make something work with that. But actually going towards the Jax here, so high priority towards Breathe on the top side. It's basically saying, hey, are you going to take the Lulu? Are you going to go for your support? Or will we be able to ban away answers to Breed's Jax in the top lane?
And I think it's a good read, right? Again, like, no matter how RNG's past two results went against ADG, they clearly came in with, like, targeted prep at either like strengths or weaknesses of their opponents. And it seems like once again today, RNG have done a great job. Lulu does come out for the side of LNG.
And honestly, I think the whole reason LNG opted in towards red side was trying to get out of that counter pick, right? Make sure that he was going to be comfortable on the top side and then give them a lane to try and play around. But without that opportunity now, especially if RNG are able to ban away things that can do well into this Jax, well then you should be in a pretty good spot. LNG though, going to lean the opposite direction and go, right, we're going to just look straight towards the mid lane.
And for RNG, I mean, if they want to ban out top laners, right, we've seen things like the Kennen really come out strong for Alice so far in this playoffs. He always could just opt into a similar matchup and accept, like, hey, I can go on something like a Gnar. I won't have that same lane presence, but still just try to play for those 5v5s. The big question is if they can get through that early game this time around. I think it is a good sign that at least they won't have to worry about like the presence coming out from an Azir or the pressure a Poppy can put up.
I'm curious to see what the plan is here for LNG, because you could ban the Taliyah, think, hey, look, you know, we don't want to give that over to Xiaohu, one of his best picks, but you could also just look to take the Taliyah here for Doinb. You've already got the Azir banned away. The Silas is gone as well. Like, get rid of the Ari instead and make sure that you've got that comfortable position for the Taliyah or vice versa, right? But it is actually going to be the Xin Zhao ban, what we kind of hinted at already, the Yuumi Xin Zhao, such a potent combo.
I suppose it depends on philosophy, right? Do you want to counter pick the mid lane, or do you want to get your priority pick in the mid lane? Obviously, they know the enemy top laner, and hence there's Xin Zhao ban towards the jungle there. I'm curious where RNG will go with their second ban here.
Like I said, I feel like you can look at maybe taking away another stable top laner. Jax is one of these champions that I think has a lot of like really solid meta matchups, which is why we typically do see it blinded. So RNG instead will just take away the Akali coming out from mid lane. I agree with Dagda. I think Taliyah would be a solid look here for the side of LNG. It's actually one of the only meta mage mid laners that Doinb does play. He always does have something like a Lissandra available as well, but I think Taliyah would be much more of a standout right here for their side.
Yeah, I just feel as well like it's such a strong pick for Xiaohu as well, but looks like they might actually just take the Lissandra and go, hey, look, we're actually just going to look to try and play around this mid lane incredibly strong, because if you take the Taliyah, the Claw can bypass what Taliyah wants to do with that Unraveled Earth, and that looks like the plan here for LNG.
I feel like a big thing could as well be, like, with them taking away the Xin Zhao, the fact of, like, hey, we already have Yuumi support, we have Jax in the top lane, like, where are you going to get your engage unless you really go down into the depths of, I don't know if they wanted to pull out a Nocturne or like something a little bit more obscure in the jungle role, which we haven't seen RNG willing to do just yet. They will go with the Taliyah, so we'll have a solid laning matchup in that mid lane, really good at being able to play around these sides, which they already have the Jax setting up for that perfectly. Trundle's still on the table for the side of RNG, and there it is, Dagda. It's locked in.
Yeah, it feels like, again, though, you kind of hinted at it, RNG don't have the best of engage and certainly don't have something that can easily lock down this Zeri in fights. So if they aren't able to just breeze through these fights easily, like can definitely pop off with LvMao helping them out.
And we do get the Gnar, so they realize there's nothing to go for in that like pure 1v1. All is going to come in, he's going to punch you in the face, you're going to be knocked out. Just accepting this time around for the side of LNG, I think that, hey, as long as we can navigate getting through that early game better, that in the mid game, like our 5v5 is solid. We have engaged, we have DPS, we have numerous threats on both the front and back line of RNG.
And one of the big things that we saw in game number 1 was what RNG were able to do with the pressure that they had in all of their lanes. Now, I still think they should have good control over the early stages, but Tarzan actually has very easy ways to set up, like, say, through that mid jungle with the lockup Doinb can provide, put pressure onto Xiaohu, and actually start to open up the map in that regard as well. And because Doinb is something that gives CC alongside it, suddenly those roams that he was looking for in game 1 can be a lot more impactful.
Does also feel like this RNG composition doesn't snowball quite as hard as what you'd expect from like a Lucian Nami in the mid game. You know, it felt like RNG went from 0 to 100 at about 15 minutes into the game. It doesn't feel like this composition will quite be able to do that same level, but still good control, as you say, and also they do have a Yuumi. I do tend to lean in the direction of the team that gets the Yuumi.
Yeah, especially if this does go later on, right? Whether it's on way and like trying to run forward, soak up a ton of this damage, or, you know, then getting on top of Breathe, who is going to be looking for flanks, is going to be looking to get on top of Light and be that huge nuisance once again like he was last game.
We'll have to see if he can be that nuisance. It's time, gentlemen, for game number 2. We'll see if RNG can keep this ball rolling. They looked immaculate in game number 1. They are angry that EDG reverse swept them into the lower bracket. They want to prove themselves and make it to play-ins as the 4th seed for Worlds. But LNG, attempt number 2. Let's see what they got in the tank.
Round 2 for LNG to see if once more they can try and overcome the odds and get themselves towards that world stage. But I have to say, like, I think I like seeing Xiaohu back on towards something where he can have that agency. I mean, the Taliyah has always been a very big pick for him. He's also been great at finding these engages, cutting members of the opposition off, and it feels like that's going to be his job once more here to try and set up for things like the Yuumi with that final chapter to get these fights started.
Even looking at the opposing side, right, for Doinb. Doinb loves this kind of role where he's on something like Lissandra that can go in, start the fight. He's the one that chooses when things happen for the side of LNG, and being able to be that combo with Tarzan that they've built up so well. There's nothing really that could shut that down this time around from RNG.
And I love the fact that we have both mid laners going towards the Unsealed Spellbook. I'm going to hold on to this point, though, as LNG will be spotted trying to make their way into this bush. We'll just back away. But having both the Unsealed Spellbooks there for Xiaohu, having the opportunity to swap over into an Exhaust, work with Ming, like to make sure Tarzan can never have these big engages with the Cyclone, making sure that Allah is always going to be exhausted as well is going to be key. And especially when you look towards Light in those later fights, someone has to try and get something to deal with him.
And we can already see, right, LNG coming in with this specific bot lane matchup. We've seen Zeri and Lulu able to find that pressure at level 1, coming in like from the strength of Lulu being able to go for these consistent trades, and then the passive damage coming out from the help pick. So hopefully with not the same amount of pressure and prio coming out from RNG, I think LNG should have a much more comfortable pace of game this time around.
See if they can find that pace of game for themselves. The junglers, very reminiscent of game number 1. We still have that same top lane matchup, and both junglers going to be moving up to the top side. I will say, though, Trundle loves a little fight in the early game, right? So you expect that Tarzan might not be able to go toe-to-toe.
I think the difference is, though, Xiaohu not getting easy control over that mid lane, right? Like, Lissandra very good at pushing that wave back. You do have control over top side, but I don't feel like you can just easily go for an invade in the same manner. It's also, I mean, just 3 camps hit now. Looks like actually we are going to get Wei going for this regardless.
I was going to say, Dagda, yeah. I don't know if Wei's listening to what you're saying because he still wants to look for it. Looks like he's hoping that the prio and presence top can outweigh whatever happens mid. We can already see Xiaohu starting to lean over, but nothing going to come from it.
Yeah, smite fight there. Tarzan gets it in the end as it was... Wait, no.
Tarzan got us.
Yeah, Tarzan did get it, but it was Wei's smite that went down. Just did it slightly too early. I thought it was Tarzan's smite with his Q there. And then I saw the red buff on Wei, and it broke my brain. Breathe moving in here as Wei tries to just help crash this wave underneath the tower.
Yeah, especially with how low Breathe is, you do not want to leave him that low in the top side. But Tarzan also hovering around this mid lane, so Breathe will be able to escape. Wei will go back towards his blue buff, but a lot of time wasted here by Wei while Tarzan has just been farming up.
And we saw, you know, the reverse last time. Not necessarily, I guess, wasted time for Tarzan, but, you know, Wei was the one who started finding that early advantage in the jungle. This time around, Tarzan will be able to do it. You have a very easy and free bot lane scuttle, but it looks like Light and LvMao, realizing jungle's going to be on this side of the map, might be setting up for a play of their own.
Here we go, all in onto Gala on the bottom side, but basically done no damage here, just losing the trade. Gala steps a little too far forward at the end, though, to even things up, but well played by RNG so far.
You got the Lissandra on the way, you got Tarzan on the way. They really want to try and make this bot lane uncomfortable for RNG, but RNG kind of reading the play, backing away, making sure that LNG can't, but it's got what it wanted. Look at that freeze that LNG now have, and RNG can't really push up.
RNG doing a nice job of at least canceling LvMao's reset, and now knowing Light's not here, can look to push in this wave. Still seems like they were a little bit hesitant on what could be, but finally realizing the full volition, they are going to push this in, so should be able to get a good reset for themselves as well. And now you look at the minimap, Tarzan on that bottom side, not going to have a window where he can really look to influence this matchup.
Yeah, we just catch it here in the replay. Nice job from Light and LvMao, right? They knew Doinb had the push in mid. You got Wukong on the bot side for Tarzan as well. And they just try to put as much pressure down and make sure they can get that freeze. So because of that, Light picks up that massive wave underneath the tower. He'll have control over the wave, and it's a later reset coming in from RNG.
Doing BTP up in the top side here, Ala. Gonna try and look juicy for this one, and it's paid off. Breathe rooted up here. Doinb moving forward, but the flash after the stun from Breathe means that it just can't happen, and it's all falling apart for LNG already.
It was a really nice try coming out from them, right? Ala already that low, kind of has to use himself as bait, which sadly doesn't allow him to follow up and be any part of the damage, but you still at least were able to trade flash for flash. Doinb will still have tools to be able to get in the middle of a fight, so hopefully they can capitalize on Breathe now being flashed.
The big thing, though, is that now Doinb, as he's about to hit level 6, won't have that flash for a mid lane play onto Xiaohu. So Xiaohu with the cleanse should be far safer in this mid lane, and the fact that Breathe managed to escape is going to be great for RNG as a whole. It kind of denies that mid-jungle pressure that we were talking about. So definitely think for RNG now, especially if they're looking towards things like, you know, Dragon in the next few minutes or even a Rift Tower fight, suddenly Doinb might be a target in that regard.
And I feel like we're starting to see a narrative in this series of Doinb trying to make plays, desperately trying to make plays in the side lane, and Breathe, Gala, and Ming just being impervious to it. It doesn't feel like he can make any of these plays stick.
I think it's one of those things as well, right, where in LPL, where most teams do have like very set styles that they go towards like every game. LNG in my mind being one of them, especially in this regionals with playing towards Ala. It's like, cool, you can do it, but at the same time, the enemy team knows exactly what you're looking for as well, which is why Breathe has been able to dodge out on a lot of these. And RNG looking like they want to try and capitalize with Breathe coming in on the reset, but maybe just going to try and get some information. We could see Wei actually going for that reset in the enemy jungle. Not quite sure if he dropped down a ward, and it looks like he did.
Yeah, you got a ward on both sides. Tarzan able to sneak one in on the opposite red side, so both junglers getting that information that they need, and there's actually opposite mid laners leaning towards opposite sides as well, so everyone trying to see if they can get control over opposite sides of lanes, and this is exactly what we expected when we saw both these mid laners coming out, right? Being proactive in the early stages, trying to see if you can get something to snowball yourself into the mid game.
Oh, and at least going to be able to cancel Xiaohu's back, which does feel pretty important, right? We're hitting that 7-minute mark. Both mid laners having level 6 online, and even TP there for Xiaohu. So I guess ultimately Doinb not really doing too much, just getting into his head, Dagda.
Yeah.
You know, letting Xiaohu know that he's there and watching.
As thing, just nice timing from Xiaohu, right? Because you're like, I need to get back to mid lane. 8 minutes, going to be coming up soon. Cleanse will still be available for Xiaohu. No flash still for Doinb and for Breathe off that initial play. So with the control that I imagine Gala and Ming should be able to push out on the spot side, might be able to move up and help out. And you can even see with the blue handoff here, Xiaohu will get control over this mid lane as Doinb collects that blue buff.
And we can see now, right, LvMao, like, impact, like, getting presence on the map as well while that's happening. It's one of the nice things about typically we talk about, like, engaged supports versus enchanters, but even just Lulu versus Yuumi, a lot more freedom to be able to roam, look for opportunities to help your mid laner have that freedom to move, whether it's something as simple as picking up a blue buff or looking to find those opportunities. We can see now Wei committing the bot side should open up LNG to have presence for this Herald, unless Wei can find a gank first.
This is a nice read from Tarzan, though. This is something that Wei pretty much does religiously every time you're looking at a Rift Herald setup. So Tarzan goes, cool, I've got an opportunity now where they're all on the bot side, so I can start up Herald, and RNG go to make the play.
But they know the Wei is doing it. It doesn't matter if it's still successful, but it won't be. Light gonna survive for now as Ala diving in the top side as well. 0 to 100 in this game, but Breathe surviving for now. CC chain is there. Boomerang in. The counter-strike, though, as Breathe looks for one of his own. Hopped on his head, and Ally bounces towards victory.
And it was so close for Breathe to be able to bring it back, but LNG with a great raid, like Dagda said, getting Herald, being the team to find a pick. like, we got a flash from LvMao on bot side for RNG, and they're picking up Dragon, but LNG definitely coming out ahead in the trade.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you'll get some plates as well here for Gala as you look towards that bot side. Light going to push right the way back, but opening up this map is going to be great for LNG, especially with how much Doinb has been roaming. If you're able to put that into top side, get this big advantage for Allah, make sure that he's in a better spot against Breathe, then you can start to enact some dives in towards the mid lane as well.
You're probably at a place where you don't even need to commit that Herald to top, right? 2 plates already, you can just look to lean over. We're going to see what happens here in the bot side. Nice pillar. They buy a lot of space. It was a good read because they had a lot of vision in that bot side river already, but here's what really mattered. Allah locking down Breathe. Doinb already had the presence to roam, and sadly for Breathe, he's already so low, does get close, has to use a W, but Lissandra's cooldown so low, able to get one more Q out to confirm that kill before his top laner was at any risk.
I mean, a valiant effort from Breathe, especially considering how much pressure has been sent towards his lane across this game. It feels like he's laning 2v1 against Allah and Doinb at this point.
Yeah, and we need to see something come out from Xiaohu, right? He's been trying to answer something on side lanes. We consistently see him lean, but not willing to commit the Reaver's Wall just yet, and it feels like Doinb has had much more of a presence in that regard. So RNG starting to slip behind, and you can see it in the gold, you can see it in the map presence, and also where this Rift Herald is going to be placed.
And it's one of those things where, right, we talked about the lack of engage coming out from RNG and how that can impact them in team fights, but also in plays, because we saw on bot side, all you can really do to try to lock down LNG's bot lane is throw down a pillar, and then run at you with Ming's ultimate. If that doesn't buy enough time for Xiaohu to get down there, then, I mean, anyone on LNG would be able to get out from a play scot-free. Now we can see on the map, Allah in such a great position with this wave.
Especially with the amount of mobility that LNG have, like, the only person that just kind of stuck is LvMao.
Oh, ultimate down in the mid lane. Xiaohu gonna have to use that cleanse. Gets a little flick back as well. And a cheeky little boulder thrown over towards Doinb. So nice answer from Xiaohu, especially considering LvMao was there in the mid lane alongside Doinb.
Just the willingness to make these plays. Like, we've seen Doinb now doing this constantly, right? We hit on it earlier that it hasn't really been working out. But the fact that they keep looking for them, and right, even if it's like only a 40% hit rate on these kills coming through, it's a lot more than we've seen RNG able to muscle out.
Yeah, I mean, 40% is still a higher hit rate than 0, right? So you're still making them work regardless. So I think that's the biggest problem for RNG is that at the moment, we're not, like, they don't need to snowball necessarily. Like, they have good damage late with Taliyah and Sivir. Jack should be good in side lanes as well. But it's just the biggest problem that you have is that LNG kind of get the run of the mill at the moment.
Yeah, and, you know, I did want to hit on that 40% is better than 0. But if we talk in terms of accuracy, RNG haven't tried one, therefore they are at 100% rate of not failing. I can't say success because
they did try the bot lane to play. They at least had a pillar.
Yeah.
Does that count?
Okay, you're right.
Maybe
yeah.
Maybe it's a half attempt. They kind of just went.
Yeah, Xiaohu didn't fully go down. It was kind of more like a nudge, like. Ugh.
Yeah.
You know, without the visual, people actually nudge you.
This is just me and you making weird noises.
Yeah,
It actually doesn't do anything.
Look, on the other side as well, at the end of the day, you know the classic phrase, you miss 60% of the shots that you take. I think is the you know that motivational phrase?
Yeah. The anchor man mixed with whatever that other phrase was. I'm not sure where we're going.
Moving on. I will say, down at the bottom side, everything's been going pretty nicely for Gala and Ming so far this series. You know, looking great on the Lucian Nami, now having the Sivir and the Yuumi, which, I mean, this is one of the dream bottom lanes that you can get in a draft because you have the wave clear, so it's difficult to dive the Yuumi. But then also having that priority, and you can see they already got the 2 plates, but now Herald going to be slammed down towards this mid lane.
Yeah, they really want to try and make it work. Xiaohu has already pieced out. He's like, you get plates, I get Gnar. It seems to be the trade here because nobody on RNG is actually going to defend this push in the mid lane.
No, the read so good coming out from LNG as well. Allah backing off, not giving the window to come through, but Light might be caught out. Doesn't have both summoners.
Final chapter comes through. There's the root and the exhaust as Light turns big, blasts out some lightning, and Tarzan moving in, but the pillar from Wei, I mean, honestly, Wei has just been playing immaculately this series.
The problem is, though, they don't get the kill again, right? Light just gets to, he does burn his flash, but he still gets to walk on out of that one. You're still getting the plates in the mid lane, and Xiaohu once more trying desperately to get into this top lane.
Xiaohu's like, you know what? Forget mid lane. I'm coming top. It's time to answer on behalf of Breathe, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen as Allah about to turn Mega Gnar. Can he find the flick back? No, dodged by Allah, and as the Mega Gnar procs, it's going to be another failed gank on the top side.
And we just see now LNG, the fact that they've been able to dodge out on every play RNG have tried to make, building up a 2K gold lead for themselves. Dragon about to come up in 15 seconds. Xiaohu just committing up towards the top side means we can see on the minimap more presence, more vision for LNG in the spot side.
Ults come down in the mid lane. Tarzan there to spin around and find one onto Xiaohu. Wait, looking to answer, but 2v1, he cannot go further.
And LNG are answering back so well in game number 2, and when it comes down late game to ease of execution, I'm giving it to LNG. Now they're getting the advantages that they want through this mid jungle and in this top lane, and RNG are just kind of left scratching their heads.
And Ox mentioned on the desk, the thing that he wanted to see come out from LNG's side was more agency. Yeah. They brought that, but even just comparing to RNG, right, they have a lot more agency on plays over their counterpart, which is why we're seeing them eke out ahead, able to pick up this turret in top. They dropped Herald in mid, so that one's quite low as well. All is going to be able to start pushing this wave in, hovering over towards that mid lane. Once Tarzan Cyclone is up again, he's probably just look to make a repeat play. It'll be very easy for LNG to break down that next turret.
Yeah, Tarzan going to go for the Rift Herald, as you say. And honestly, the biggest difference between game number 1 and game number 2 to me feels like this top lane, right? Over a 40 CS lead right now for Ola over Breathe. They've already taken that first tower. This Gnar is going to be looking terrifying moving into the mid game.
Yeah, and I think the best way now for RNG to try and get back into this game is making plays like this, right? Like seeing if you can overload one side of the map, especially with 2 dragons already in their back pocket. Maybe give up a third, see if you can just all rush to one side of the map, take a couple of towers for yourself in trade, because at the moment, if you can't get these towers up, if you're not able to try and play through Xiaohu and Breathe like in a side lane, it just feels like you're going to slowly run out of this game.
It's definitely going to be rough. I think the nice thing is it seems like Gala probably slightly ahead of where Light is in terms of items, now being able to pick up that Zeal, so you know, if he can hit like a second item or something a little bit sooner, we get a team fight coming out, maybe Sivir plus Yuumi can be enough to take a full-on 5v5. You do have those cleanses, you do have Spell Shield available for if Doinb and Tarzan can get on the back line. And then for RNG, everything's going to be about kiting out a fight, getting the Sivir and Taliyah damage down, and just trying to whittle out the team fight, right? Because for LNG, like, Ala will do damage now, but still a lot of it going to rely on Light.
Yeah, I think at least the kind of silver lining here for RNG is just how much speed they have in this competition. With the Shurelya's Reverie, with the Sivir speed up as well, the ability to chase down members is there.
Heal out from Doinb. Xiaohu trying to rock surf his way out to safety and gets away with it. Doinb, again, desperate to find these picks, but Xiaohu just by the skin of his teeth now.
At least he has Spellbook as well, right? So already being back on the TP, so not really too much loss, but top side.
Breathe is in big trouble here. Gets the counter-strike. Oh, the flash Gnar from Ala. I'm not even sure if that hit, honestly, as Tarzan finished the kill.
And this is such a different look from game number 1. Last game we saw Breathe being able to bully out Ala, but without that same sort of pressure coming through from way towards this top side, you can see Ala doing so well in the 1v1, and this is starting to become a major issue because you're losing out in their top side. Now you got Doinb pushing in bot as well onto a terror, but he might be in trouble with RNG on the way.
Oh, Xiaohu moving down. Doinb the one getting roamed on this time around as Xiaohu gonna go to clear the wave. Claw now down. Flash available for Doinb. Has his ultimate as well, but Wei moving in. Doinb needs to buy himself some time somehow. Flashes for the root on Xiaohu. It's pretty. Is it enough is the question. Turns himself into an icicle, but this icicle's about to shatter, I fear. Gala moves in. Doinb falls. It takes 4 members for RNG, but they find a kill.
I feel like that was a good win, though, for RNG. They still get the kill onto Gala when it could have just gone towards the Trundle. They will lose out on this top side, though, as Ala again able to push in and get that tower. Now Tarzan.
Oh, Wei could be in trouble. Answered on the bottom side while losing a tower on top as well. And Tarzan, 3rd kill. This guy's the king of the jungle.
At the end of the day, LNG still coming out ahead, breaking down another structure. They're even going to get another turret here since Light is here to push in this wave. And Ala made a nice roam over towards mid. Looks like he cleared out that wave as well, and now is pivoting back up the top side. So between Ala and we'll just say the rest, they're doing a great job in this sequence of covering all 3 lanes.
Ala having to hop over Xiaohu, Breathe, Ming, all chasing him down through the jungle here. Ala no flash. The final chapter will connect. The counter-strike is there. Doinb trying to move in. Gnar so close that he actually pulls it off, but chopped down in the end. And Gala once again arrives to sweep up a kill.
And that's the thing. We've talked about how these AD carries can completely change the landscape of mid to late game fights. 2 kills now onto the Sivir will bode well for RNG, but they're losing out everywhere on the map. 2 inner turrets go down, and now that mid lane turret's going to be just a hair's breadth away from falling as well.
That's why I'm really interested to see the gold graphs and seeing, like, does Gala picking up these kills outpace the fact that, you know, Light also just getting a ton of gold from the fact that LNG are getting more objectives on the map, because it feels like that kind of might neutralize the potential advantage we thought Gala and RNG could have.
I mean, we were talking about RNG just decimating LNG in game number 1. Well, we've got an almost 5,000 gold lead at 19 minutes. That's not a bad start to game 2 for LNG.
No, and I'm glad you guys tempered my expectations after game 1 where RNG had such a clean game. We also have already pretty much gotten our answer, right? Light able to finish up the Phantom Dancer. At the same time, sure, Gala's sitting on another crit cloak, but just the fact that, I mean, your AD carry is at the same pace as the enemy, and your whole top side is outpacing their counterparts, I think just spells good things for the side of LNG.
Especially when you're the Zeri versus the Sivir, right? I feel like you always favor the Zeri in those situations, unless it's specific compositions. Gala trying to clear the wave here. It's like trying to push another wave in. This tower, that's the next thing on the chopping block for LNG.
I don't think they even care. They're just looking at the dragon. 10 seconds until that one's up, full control over the area. And this is where I was talking about RNG. I don't think they can really fight for this. I think you have to start trying to make plays on these side lanes. But, I mean, Xiaohu's resetting, breathes in base, like, they're not going to be able to cross-map anything. Xiaohu kind of realizes that cancels his recall. They're moving into this top side to see what they can do.
Just trying to find vision for now, right? And they did get some wards down. They even got a ward behind where LNG have that control ward, which doesn't look like it's spotted. So we'll have information, but instead that they can't turn it into anything tangible, it feels like for RNG, I just really don't see how their composition is going to be able to find openings until this Jax is at a point where it's huge, or if LNG make mistakes, which, you know, even though these are the top teams in the LPL, I think I wouldn't put it past either of them to, you know, have a misstep or two.
And I mean, we saw LNG do it already against V5, right? In both series they played against V5, Ala gets caught out, overextended, gives the opportunity for the enemy team to come back into it. And look, if Ala does and suddenly Spree gets a ton of kills, that could be a way to get back into it. But I still just really like how easy LNG's composition is to execute on. You have so much engage, you can jump onto Gala and Xiaohu so easily, and then you've got Light who's just free firing the whole time.
And I will say, you know, with the way that the meta currently works with these late game AD carries, with our games often going very, very long, these little mistakes that you're talking about matter all that much. If you make one misstep in the late game, 60+ second death timer, you might just lose the entire series for your team. So LNG gonna have to be disciplined here with their lead, but it is a 4,000 gold lead in their favor, and they're trying to get presence around this Baron. There are no wards in the area for RNG.
I think just great play overall, right? Have Ala down at bot side. He is TP available. We've already seen him pressuring in the 1v1. And then using this like squad of Wukong plus Lissandra to find opportunities, get deep vision, try and set up 4 picks where Doinb and Tarzan can come in and just 100-0 someone. RNG knowing the only way to get vision in this scenario is by overloading mid lane and forcing your way in with that numbers advantage, so they do that. And should be able to back out, but Tarzan still looking confident.
Well, he could be a target here, but Doinb won't find, or won't decide to go in on the claw. Looks like we're just fighting over mid-prio over and over again. We're getting into ping-pongs, but there's a knock-up and a laser on top as LvMao moves in. Gala surviving, though, and Tarzan now rooted. There's one for RNG.
And I mean, that's actually perfect for RNG, because we're saying, right, the problem for RNG is they can't really force fights. But when you're running into Taliyah and Sivir...
Good little laser there. Ala about to mega, but that pillar completely denies the counterplay.
I mean, RNG doing a nice job of making sure nothing comes through, even gonna potentially stop this push. But for LNG, I don't know why this stare down's still going on, guys.
I feel like we've gone from very little happening for 20 minutes. There's something like that. Right, so to fight.
We need to get the good, the bad, and the ugly music in the background. Just the guitar riff that just goes over this.
Well,
it's the guy.
Solo invade from Ala onto the red foot.
Oh my God, Dagda, did you call it and did you curse it about the potential for the LNG throws and the missteps to come through?
Oh, this is great. I love this. This is wonderful. Not great League of Legends,
one more.
I feel like I'm watching WWE right now, honestly.
This is just evolving into just everyone fisticuffs all over the place. This was so surprising to me, though. I saw the Ultra Shock laser. I saw this great engage, and I was like, oh my God, they've done it. They found the fight, but The Yuumi being able to dissuade light from coming in. Good flash away from Gala.
And the pillar as well.
Yeah, it's Tarzan that goes down.
Yeah, I mean, this is like RNG's ideal scenario, right? Is like, I mean, huge engage from Tarzan, but running into all the damage coming through, the pillar able to stop them out, and then here, I mean, Ala wanting to find something. I'm guessing maybe just thinking Breed transitioning in, wanting to get this red buff.
He definitely found something. He definitely found something.
He found himself a fight. He found these fists is what he found from RNG. 4-4 on the scoreboard, but we're talking about the big gold lead. It's now down to just 3,000 in favor of LNG, so still ahead. But with RNG getting those first 2 Drakes and now evening that gold up a little bit, it does get scarier for LNG.
I think especially since we're on the point where Xiaohu is going to be also start to be a huge damage dealers, right? Sanraf's coming out, so more damage, and especially the ability haste, able to spam that Q in these team fights. And Gala very quickly making his way to that 3rd item.
Also the big thing, you know, level 14 now, so slightly extended on the Weaver's Wall. Level 16 going to extend that even further, given the opportunity then to start to play between these lanes a lot easier than Doinb can, especially since Doinb swapping over to the Ignite. He wants to try and make a play here in the mid lane.
Does want to, but again, won't find the opportunity. I feel like that's been kind of the story of the series for Doinb, is trying to make these plays, but never quite having a window.
LNG have been trying, but I really love the way, if you notice in game 1 and here, RNG always have someone marking the angle they know that LNG want to come from, right? In game 1, it was actually Breathe, constantly watching flanks. Here, it was Wei just hovering back, waiting and seeing, hey, is Tarzan going to jump in, try and pillar him in, lock him down, and find another pick. So I just really like how much more conscious RNG are of the mistakes they made against EDG here today against LNG.
We're going to have to see now, because as this Dragon is about to spawn again, we're not really seeing RNG in a position that they feel like they can contest. And if that is the case, you're giving so much across to LNG when it comes to just how strong these Mountain Dragons are.
Yeah, and I'm not wanting to go for the fight, which I'm surprised on. Munchables, like, we just got the IE coming out for Gala.
We just saw the gold graphs on our left. Gala, the richest man on the Rift right now. And, you know, as you say, 3 items on that server, having the IE. And he's been sweeping up these kills, right? We saw the 2 plays where Doinb and Ala surviving for so long, but it just gave time for Gala to get in the fight.
It feels so weird though, because we almost use RNG as our textbook example of like how you cross map, how you try and make these other plays if you're going to give something, but we're not seeing it in this game. Like, we don't get Xiaohu pushing out top lane and then they threaten Baron, force you to dive into all of the extra damage that they have. We're not getting that right now from RNG, and I think a little bit of that was that Ala was threatening Xiaohu on that top side, but it just feels like RNG are so scared to move past their own turret line.
I think RNG also just very confident in like the damage they have coming out in late game. We can see now the vision control that at least they were able to get in that time, and gonna go now down to the one place where they actually don't have vision. LNG can be able to spot them out and keep playing safe. But for RNG, right, kind of having these 2, actually 3 scaling carries in Sivir, Taliyah, and Jax. So they're fine biding their time and waiting.
And they feel determined to hold on to this mid lane tower, so LNG can't get a vision as easy in their jungle, can't try and look for these flanks, can't try and play, you know, through RNG's jungle. And at the moment, at least RNG, with the wave clear from Sivir, is doing a good job of that.
And that's the thing, right? You've got a Sivir at the end of the day. If you want to keep a tower with Sivir, unless you're against the Baron, you're pretty much going to be able to keep that tower. You just one-shot the waves. Makes it so difficult for LNG to actually push this advantage. Wei taking a bit of a chunk as Ala moves in as well. But again, just this fight for mid lane, you can see how much quicker Gala alone can clear this wave.
Yeah, and the problem is that you're looking at, like, Doinb still holding on to this Ignite. He needs to try and use this so he has access to TP and can try and play through side lanes, because for the moment, they don't actually have any way of trying to break this siege. Yeah. The wave is being cleared out too quickly. They can't look for dives because they don't have side lane under control. Xiaohu and Breathe can get there so much quicker than the rest of LNG can, and it's just a big L stalemate.
I feel like we're going to get to a point very soon, though, where LNG are going to be the ones feeling pressure to make something happen. And this is just all the benefit of how you hit on earlier, Dagda, of RNG picking up those 2 early Drakes, because now we can see they feel fine leaving Breathe in that side lane. LNG are the ones trying to find avenues into the enemy jungle and set up these picks. And again, as this damage is coming out, and even ignoring the damage, right? Ala going for more of a like team fight-esque build, going full tank. Wei's gonna love that. Wei's gonna have like the perfect stat stick to go for an ult in these team fights.
Yeah, he's gonna love nicking those away with the subjugation. I will say, this game pace has been very odd, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like we had a first 20 minutes where not a whole lot happening, and then the teams just needed to get a bit of fight out of the system, have 2 minutes of just brawling and go, okay, we can play to our win conditions again.
You get
now.
reset,
We can play
everyone gets to go out and play, and then it's back to study, and it's like, where's he moving on the map? How do I move this bit? It's all, yeah, definitely a very weird pace, but I mean, look, again, it's kind of RNG just slowing down this, making sure that they can get to that late game stage, whereas for LNG, again, trying to amass on this mid lane, see if they can get the pick.
I'm going to try and find it, but I don't think they're going to, as we continue to pick up the wave. Alan trying to move in. Final chapter will not find the route. And we continue to clear the way.
Both teams kind of playing on these like very small margins where for LNG I can kind of see, right, having Lissandra now once again.
We continue.
Tarzan looks at the mid lane here. Finally, LNG will actually get priority in this mid lane. Tarzan, though, could be caught in a bad position here. Needs to use that clone. Very nicely done there. Keeps himself very healthy.
Do you want to say we continue or do I?
I don't know how to have this part of the script.
Well, it looks like it's a different one.
Go on to the Baron. It changes his way. Has to move in here with a Yuumi on his shoulder. The rest of RNG trying to posture for a bit of a fight.
Trying to find the angle, right? No vision surrounded. There was a ward before that they swept, so they should know what he's looking for. And look at Xiaohu. They're aware.
Ala in Gnar right now, but it's about to time out 4K on the Baron. LNG not committing for the time being as Wei tries to move in. Are we actually going to flip this right now? Doinb doesn't go in. Wei moving into the pit as here we go. Light stacking up. He actually gets this steal as RNG. They found the Baron. Can they find the fight? Light in the middle of everyone just blasting damage out, but the rest of his team can't get into the play. He's 1v4 and punished for it. Ala flashes out and RNG get everything they could have wanted.
You cannot flip these Barons against Wei. He's been so good over the whole year at smiting them from right underneath your nose, and he does it again against Tarzan. Fight as well for RNG. That's what they needed to break open the game.
It looks like LNG were feeling the same way that we were. Like, hey, are we just going to keep dancing around mid lane this whole time? No, let's make something happen. Like you said, they forced this. They didn't really have an angle to go for a turn, which is why you can see they don't go for it, right? It gives the opening for Wei to get into the pit, and the other members zoned out. Doinb locked down, so they can't stop Wei from getting in and going for that smite.
Just really bad timing from LNG as well. Ala had gone into that mini Gnar form, so had no way to actually set up the fight. Tarzan will have to stay in the pit because of how low the Baron had gone, so your engage tools not really there to follow up in the fight. So RNG, they will take that. And now with Dragon up and available as well, that feels like it's going to be finally RNG getting their third Dragon on the board.
I do got to say, though, I do respect LNG for, again, having that fight in them, not wanting to go 30 minutes with nothing on the board, but it's not helping their chances of, you know, making it to regional.
Here's the thing, like, I get the Baron play. It's just committing to the Baron that felt a little bit dicey, and especially once, like you say, once we're into mini Gnar, that's the point where it doesn't feel fightable for LNG. But now, the gold lead, basically even. It's about 1,000 for LNG, but with RNG getting a third Drake of the game now, they're on sole point. Everything's feeling fantastic, and now Gala, 4 items as well, 3 for Xiaohu. Everything is coming online.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. This next team fight, I feel like it's going to be very easy for RNG to take. We've hit on the amount of AoE damage they have. Again, the only area we've said it's hard is to force fights themselves. But when they have Baron and you can force LNG into these tight areas around their turrets or their jungles, that's when it's very easy for Xiaohu to throw out these Qs, get this damage down, and not really give LNG a way to operate.
And again, it feels like this LNG mid-game kind of letting them down, right? We talked about it with Ala, end up getting caught out. Okay, that gives RNG a little bit of wiggle room to now move in towards mid lane and defend that, and then flipping the Baron as well, giving RNG the opportunity now to get so much of the standing gold that was still on the map.
You know, the funny thing about that conversation as well is we were kind of talking about someone getting caught out in the sideline. Not the 5 of them flipping Baron just for the sake of it. Definitely a massive mistake from LNG, and now the siege from RNG can just keep on going. Sivir gonna love this kind of situation as another tier 2 goes down. And remember, the tier 2s were taken by LNG hours ago in this game. Both of the side lanes, they just couldn't get into that mid lane. And now it feels like them stalling out in the mid game and RNG managing to punish.
And it feels like we're seeing what made RNG famous on the international stage, what they're trying to use to get back to that world stage. This macro in the mid game, playing out through the lanes, making sure that they're able to continuously put pressure on the map, get the vision control that they need. And now again, like, look at how much blue wards are down on this bottom side. And now they're setting up for Xiaohu to push in bot wave, use that Weaver's Wall then to cut off people from the mid lane tier 2 and see if they can make that dive happen.
And, you know, earlier on, our beautiful analyst Sofa did break down that...
Yeah, not the people on the sofa, just the sofa itself.
Yeah. It's an incredibly intelligent piece of furniture, honestly.
They built the segments, they found the stats, and you know what they said? They said that the winner of MSI has never missed Worlds. RNG wanting to follow through, not be the first one to, let's say, embarrass the winners of previous MSIs and get there once again. It's not sealed just yet, but looking for the engage.
Ala could be in trouble here. He's in mini now, but he's about to turn Mega, and everyone's stacked up right here. Ala looking for the ulti, but he hops over them and then gets taken down. LvMao forced the flash, and it looked like it could have been beautiful, but it all falls apart.
Just a great pick, and there's that Weaver's Wall that we were talking about. Gets the cut off Tarzan from the wave as well. RNG want to try and crack the base. Doinb still on top side. He has the TP, but he knows he can't save it.
No, RNG are going to be able to do this. You can see them just brute forcing their way in right now. They might not have, you know, Yuumi ult anymore to like try and force an engage, but all they need is this inhibitor.
Where did LNG go? Where is the team that was dominating for the vast majority of this game? They seem to just flip Baron and then switch their brains off. Like, the rest of the game has been a disaster.
But again, this is the power of RNG. They're finding these picks, playing around the vision they've already established. This is why they've been so terrifying at this point in the game.
It has, and right, knowing, like, already getting this vision down, waiting for the moment where LNG goes to sweep, and then Ala left in a very unfortunate position. Slow comes out from the pillar, not really anywhere left for him to go. Tries to get away here, just about to get Mega and try and bring them down, but goes down the instant before. And I think a lot of like how we've gotten here so far has just been, again, them feeling like they are on a timer against what RNG picked up.
And I feel like Ala there thought he was going to have enough rage to do the ult while in the air that you see so many times that we saw from him yesterday in one of our games, but not enough, unfortunately, not enough rage. It means he can't make the play. And now RNG, for the first time this game, having a gold lead of their own, almost 2,000 up. We've got a Drake coming up in just over a minute's time. That'll be sold for RNG if they can get it. LNG haven't been winning to even contest the last few.
And that's why Tarzan's here trying to see if he can make this pick happen. They know that they're going to get members of RNG underneath this tower. Breathe is off in the side lane, so this is kind of their Hail Mary play. Can they catch RNG before they set up for the Dragon? And I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to come through with it.
No, and right now they're going to try and bluff them, right? It seems like they're going to try to go to Baron once again, pull members out, and hope they can get something up.
Look at Breathe in the bottom lane. It feels right that you call it a Hail Mary play, Dagda, because this is penance for their earlier Baron play. RNG trying to contest while they have their top laner taking an inhib. They go for the Baron, but it's already a kill.
Tarzan's dead!
Tarzan goes down and Zeri gets the Baron. What is going on in this game? Doinb next to fall as RNG somehow finding everything, but LNG at least they get the Baron. Light stack it up, but no, denied by Breathe. Once again, this Jax is destructive. Zala looks to answer. Xiaohu 1v1 against the enemy top laner, stacking up the hyper, dodging away from the Qs, but the reinforcements are here. Xiaohu survives. LNG, they get a single Baron, but at what cost, gentlemen? At what cost?
It is just so silly coming out. Again, the desperation for LNG. It almost worked. Tarzan goes down, but Light secures the Baron, but once Breathe gets in, it just all goes downhill from there.
This is one of the strangest games of League of Legends I have ever cast. 0 to 100 time and time again, but Xiaohu, aggressed upon, has the stopwatch. There's now final defense here. Breathe in the middle of everyone. Tarzan trying to finish some kills off, but it's not gonna happen here. RNG will find the kills. Final chapter comes on out. Nexus is bare here, and RNG will make it happen. They go to 2, but what a way to do it.
I don't know what I do with my hands, boys. We're gonna come on camera. What is going on?
Tell me and rub your head.
I don't know if LNG know what to do with their hands in this situation. Like,
That was such a bizarre game.
I feel like you should see bigger grins on RNG's faces after the way that they won that one.
I think they're just as confused as we are. The fact that you end up in a game where LNG get off to this great start, looks like they can set up for team fights well, and then they just end up getting picked, they end up giving over these opportunities. They flip the Baron, and then we somehow kill the jungler, other jungler in pit, Zeri steals Baron,
Yeah.
and then Zeri dies one side, Ala's half carried a fight on the other side. That was the most bizarre ending to that game I could have thought of.
I do want to give RNG some props, right? Because you can see in the mid game, like to try and make sense of the madness. LNG trying to like pushing in, getting vision in the enemy jungle. RNG like didn't go in their jungle. They're just like, okay, we're gonna just commit to playing in our lanes. Xiaohu's just gonna keep walling off mid, and it's like, how do we find these flanks? How do we get behind them? How do we force the fight? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Let's go Baron, boys. Like,
Yeah.
Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, just flipping it at that point. But I will say, LNG, the early game was good, right? We saw improvement.
Tarzan was huge.
It just feels like they were lacking something in that mid game. And RNG, certainly a very intelligent game from them. Just the pacing of it really threw me. I'm sad that we didn't get a replay of that final fight because I need to see all of that in slow motion. There was so much going on everywhere.
But that's the thing. It just felt like, again, LNG, they definitely felt the pressure, but they never really got an opportunity to try and play it through side lanes, right? Like, Breathe actually got to a point where he got in a couple of kills, was doing well against Ala. Doinb, because he only had the TP, wasn't really able to compete with Xiaohu and how quickly he could get across the map. So because of that, you couldn't, like, push into the tier 2s that were already taken and then quickly go across the mid lane. Always felt like RNG had an answer. And with the Sivir as well, that wave clear is just so obnoxious to deal with. And they, as they say, like, they just eventually went, hey, look, we need a Baron if we hope to crack this mid lane turret, so let's just go for it.
And hitting on the side lane point specifically, right? Like, Ala had an advantage. Let's remember, he indexed into like, yeah, I don't, you know, I'm facing a Jax. I'm not gonna like itemize to win side lanes, go straight into like full tank. And it just seemed like maybe that was what broke the camel's back of like, hey, I don't really want to go toe to toe to him, even if I'm a full item up. Let's just group up sooner. Let's try to find these avenues. But it really just felt like those Weaver's walls and just a Sivir in general was what kept this game at that point for so long, where we had that tension that just never stopped, but also never really built.
We're at permanent 3. And, I mean, they rightly acknowledge that, look, we can't push without a Baron. It's just trying to get the Baron, maybe not the cleanest strategy we've ever seen.
Yeah, I think it was just unfortunate timing. As we said, like, Ala going into mini Gnar, Tarzan, because they took the Baron so low, being stuck in the pit and not being able to turn. I think if they'd quickly been able to turn, that could have been their way to kind of find some of these flanks. You even saw Doinb setting up for it, but
tried.
RNG were aware. Like, it just felt like RNG kind of read everything that LNG wanted to do the whole way through.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, with 2-0 lead for RNG, we're getting to the stage where
There's no
LNG,
way.
they need an absolute miracle run, but RNG, they went 2-0 up more in this bracket. They went 2-0 up over EDG. Can they actually put that final nail?
There's no way they get reverse sweep twice.
You know what?
Right?
You know what? I'm not going to follow along with the meme. I feel like the two ways you saw them do it, like early game domination and now just kind of vibing, kicking it on the beach, waiting for their opportunity. Like, that's a pretty good spread of ways to win for RNG.
Yeah, it certainly is. We'll see if RNG can finish this one off and book their ticket to Worlds. There's only one way to find out. We're going to jump into a break, then we'll have a breakdown